Alright guys, we're doing the King Hauler build. We're going to be putting together one of the differentials. I'm only going to do one. They're pretty much identical, except for in the rear, you don't have an output side on the back. You just have the one input. Because, well, you don't need anything driving an axle behind it. So, what we got here is our two axle halves. Differential we assembled in the other video. Our two axle shafts. Our pinion. We have 6 long bolts out of bag A and nuts out of bag A. We got 4 washers and 5 E-clips. Now the kit comes with bearings, or not bearings, with bushings instead of bearings. I ordered us a set of bearings for the kit, make it run a lot better and less wear and tear on the truck. So to begin with, we're just going to take our pinion and we're going to dip it in a little marine grease, just get all the teeth done. And just like that, coat it all. This is going to spread over the whole differential case. So I'm going to stick it in there. It's a little greasy, so I'm going to try not to get grease all over my fingers. So we'll just stick it in the front half of the housing, so that way we get something that looks like this. Just sticks through. And then they say to stick an E-clip on the front of that, which is kind of difficult because you gotta hold one side, push the E-clip on the other side. So it goes like this. I highly recommend make sure your pliers aren't magnetic. They'll send them off flying like I just did. They actually have an E-clip tool. I highly recommend finding that and using that. It'll save you a ton of stress later on down the road. So let me go hunt down that E-clip I just sent flying, and I'll be right back. Give me just a second. Alright, we're back. Found that E-clip right down by my toe. Didn't even have to pause it. It was gone a whole sec. So gonna end up the E-clip right here. It's your pinion and your differential center gear. Put a little more grease on that. Just kind of glob it on. It'll actually spread around rather nicely. So set that like that, and we'll set that aside. Now, these are your two axle shafts. One shorter with a little pin out of it, and then one longer, no pin, and the pin actually sits inside it. So go ahead and put 2 bearings on, and then one E-clip way down on this end with the pin in it. And then you flip it. Make sure your E-clips are set. Right here, make sure they're good and set. But flip it through 2 bearings all the way down on that E-clip. Put your other E-clip on. Like so. And you end up with something that looks like this. Your bearings are going to separate. This is going to be your outboard side, your inboard side. And that slides into the differential. The planetary gears, and down like so. And there's actually 2 little notches you can see right here and right here where it sits in. right here on the end. So we do the same for the long shaft, except you notice that there's this one notch here and a notch here. You want to make sure you do it on this notch here, or else it doesn't go in all the way and engage, and you end up with way too much sticking out on the other end. So, let me just put the E-clip in, drop our 2 bearings on, put our second E-clip on, hands are failing me. Like so. Again, verify both the E-clips are set nice. And this one is your long one. Goes in, make sure you get all the way in, or else your bearing doesn't sit right. So your finished product should look like this. It should free roll pretty easy. Should have a bearing or a bushing if you end up not doing bearings. It'll bearing or bushing here and here. And then we'll go ahead and put this half together. That is a finished differential housing, or axle housing. So, just run some screws down. Get rid of our grease real quick. Oops, I'm doing that backwards. On these ones, they don't call for Loctite, but we're going to Loctite for the heck of it because I don't want it to fall off. When I'm Loctiting a bunch of stuff at once, I like to just get a little Loctite bubble on it. See if you can see that. Just kind of a little bubble on the tip, and you can just dab it, put your screw through, put your nut on the other side. Don't put your nut on first. Don't put your screw in first, put your nut on first, and it'll sit in the housing. Just kind of snug it up. You don't want to do it too tight yet, because you're going to have a couple going in, and it could twist the case, so you want to tighten it like you would your lug nuts on your car. You want to do one on one side, one on the other side. That way the case closes evenly. So then you can just go through and re-snug them and you're good. So I'm just going to quit talking and do this real quick. There's going to be 6 in total. So alright, 2 more. These taken care of. I already built the middle shaft, or middle housing. I didn't think you needed to see how to build 2 of them. Like I said, the only difference between the middle one and this one is that the middle one's going to have an opening over here for another pinion. It's going to hook to your spur, so that way you get your output to drive your rear axle. Or else you would need some weird angles and some weird other things to get a power transfer unit or some kind in there. So it's actually a pretty cool design. So, and I'll grab the truck and show you I put the middle axle on. Close this up. some room. We'll bring out the beast. So, here it is. You can see we already got it in. We got our trailing arms, our spring, and we put our shock on. I put our shock on before I mounted the axle. I put our trailing arm and our shock on, and then there's 2 screws that go through here. This guy right here, and those 2 screws will you can get to even with those parts in, so you can actually just tighten them up, Loctite them. These are collared, so you can only get them so tight, and there no threads there, so you can freely play with movement here. There's not going to bind up on it or pinch it because you got it too tight. Alright, so that's what you're going to end up looking like. Next video I'm going to show you is how to build the transmission. Parts of it that are a bit more confusing and a little more difficult to work with. And then the next video will be a finished truck. It'll be a show you how the finished truck looks. I really don't think I need to do a video on how to mount all this stuff. It's just a couple screws. Pretty straightforward stuff. We'll see if I feel like I personally have any problems with it. I'll show a video. If not, it'll be what it is. So, alrighty, guys. See you. See you when I see you. Thank you. Again, comment, subscribe, like. Let me know what you want to see. I'm more than happy to do what I can. Lots of cars if you want to see something done. Alrighty, guys. Have a good night.